welcome everybody. Because we have some new people that have never been, first of all, to AI Lab, but really to any Athena's Council call. So I want to welcome everybody, all of our newcomers, and just say we are so excited to have you here. And also, like, the point of this is everybody just kind of collaborate and share ideas. And Suha's going to moderate and lead us in this discussion, but there are some serious AI thought leaders on this call, many, and one of the biggest advantages will be in us collaborating together. So I'm really excited about it. Thank you so much, Suha. Thank you for being so generous and doing this AI lab.
Absolutely, it is my absolute pleasure. And I'm trying to get my thing to start, and it doesn't really want to. And I'm trying to share my screen, and it's like doing things, and I hate technology sometimes. All right. I hope I'm sharing my screen now.
Yes.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, you guys all, most of you know who I am. My name is Suha Zehl. I have my own consulting and advisory firm, Z Technology Solutions, providing kind of advisory on the technology side. Lots of things that I do. My latest tagline now is I'm the innovation magician, because I think that's kind of what I do these days. I go in and wave my wand and help companies do what they're trying to do. Really, as Molly said, we're gonna I'm more of moderating this session, but I really wanted to focus on how do we stay on top of things? What is the current AI landscape, and how do we stay on top of everything that's happening these days? How do we keep up with the Joneses? And the Joneses here are the AI tools and models that we have available to us. And then just some use cases. And I put a list of resources, Molly. I think we can share this with them later. There's a lot of really great resources that you can have out there. A lot of this you probably already know, and I apologize for that. But I think it's really important to just kind of like set the stage. And so,
yes. I hate to interrupt you, but will you put that in like presentation mode? So
is it not in presentation mode? Oops.
No, I think it's
again. Is it now in presentation mode?
No, now it's in speaker mode, I think.
Because
I just want to see your slide.
Let me see how I can do that. Because on my side, it looks like it is on presentation mode when I'm looking at it. And, let me see if I can change the display. Is it now coming up?
Oh, that's it.
Okay, excellent. I know I can't see you guys, but that's okay. Yeah, I know what you all look like. So like I said, we're going to start with just looking at the current AI landscape. And I found this very interesting. 28% of people say that they're using AI daily, but 69% are not really aware that they are actually using AI every day. And the landscape itself is really dynamic. There's new tools coming out every single day. Some sources say that there's between 10 and 20 new AI tools that are launched each day now. And I personally think that's low, but if you just think about it, 10 to 20 new AI tools every day, 365 days a year, you're talking of close to 700, 800 tools a year that you're trying to stay on top of. Now, the question is it really, really AI, or is it automation? Is it workflow? I'm not going to get into that. But I've been using this website called Best of AI. I'm actually going to jump out of the presentation really quickly. And I want to switch to that because I want to show you. I'm not sure if a lot of you have used that website in the past or not. Let me bring it up. I had it up and now it's gone away. Let me know if you guys can see it. This is all my AI, by the way. I have tons and tons of stuff. and best of AI. And now it's not loading. Ah, there we go.
Yes.
So this is actually kind of like a marketplace of all the AI tools that are out there. And it allows you to search for anything. So let's say I want to search for voice to text to voice. Sorry, text to video. Getting ahead of myself. And it will tell me, it will come back and give you all the different tools that give you text to video. So you can go down, and this is where you can go down a rabbit hole, because you could start looking at this and then say, well, I'm going to look at this, and then I'm going to look at this. So always keep that in mind. But it's a really powerful tool because there's so many AI solutions out there that you don't know. You know what you're trying to do, but you don't know what's available. So this website, the URL is in the resources section that I've provided, so you don't have to worry about it. But it's a really powerful tool because it helps you look at different things that are available to you that you may not be aware of. I'm going to jump right back into the presentation. And we'll do that. And we'll duplicate. All right. Took me back to the beginning. And that website has over 13,000 AI tools and applications. Obviously, we have to look at, is this something for personal use, or is this something that you're using as an enterprise tool? And I would caution it. I know you all know this, but do not put company private data in an open AI tool like ChatGPT. Once you share it on an open AI tool, it's available. It's out there. So you want to make sure that when you're doing company-specific research and analysis, that you're definitely using an enterprise or a closed AI solution. A lot of us seeing all of this, we go, well, where the heck do I start? How do I keep up? What tools do I really need? And so I was working with ChatGPT, and I asked it to put together this visual landscape of the different AI tools with the most, kind of like relevant categories. And again, AI makes mistakes. There is hallucination. And this is why I said, notice anything with this visual landscape, because you'll see it puts Synthesia twice with 2 different logos. 11 Labs, it's actually put an extra 1. There's really nothing called MKA. This is actually Notion. So I don't know why it said M, but Manus AI has an M in its logo. So you can see Pi and Mistral, they're 2 different AI tools, and yet it combined them and made it look like Pi is the logo for Mistral. So you want to be careful. You always want to check and make sure that what you're getting out is the right thing. But in general, for personal use, these are really the different categories that we're working with. We're looking at conversational and multimodal. Multimodal means it has text, voice, video, conversational. So it's combining all the different modes that you can communicate with AI, images, all of that. You've got some image generation and design tools, video tools, voice and music, writing and content. As you get more familiar and more comfortable, you may start going into AI agents and workflows and some automation. There's a lot of research capabilities, especially with the newer models that are coming out. If you have kids, Conmigo is a really great site. It provides tutoring on all possible subjects that you can think of. That's one I would really recommend that you look at. And when we continue to look at the 4 most common models, ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, and Grok, there's different strengths, different reasons that you might use one over the other, what it's ideal for. The original ChatGPT did have a cutoff date on the data that it provided, the responses that it was providing and where it was searching. Claude, Gemini, and Grok do not. The later versions of ChatGPT are more real-time and current. It's really important to use clear prompts because that yields better results. One of the resources I'm giving you is where you can, it's a website that helps you learn how to do better prompting. You always use follow-up questions to refine your output. So when I actually did this probably took about 5 different prompts to get it to this point, with the colors and the combinations and all of that. So you're not always going to get the right answer, the right response that you expect from the first prompt that you get. Again, making sure you understand the limits, the hallucinations, and some of the bias and some of the incorrect facts, as we saw in the previous slide. And one of the things that you can do is a lot of AI now have plugins and extensions that you can bring into your browsers. That's probably something that's really helpful as you're using those tools. I'm not going to go through this. ChatGPT alone has 10 different models. This will be in the slides that Molly will share. Each has a different purpose, a different use. It has advantages, disadvantages. I've listed them all just to give you a complete idea because I think ChatGPT is the one that most people use. The one that's mostly, I think that's the one that came out last year. It's actually being sunset. That's why I have it in red, because that's going out very shortly. So how do we keep up? How do we stay on top of everything? Always make sure that you understand what AI is capable of and what it's not. There's a lot of AI news aggregators that provide a lot of really, really relevant information. I actually listed a bunch of them in my resources that I use on a day-to-day basis. If you've never set up Google Alerts, it allows you to set up notifications and emails based on specific keywords that you're interested in. It's just if you Google Alerts, it'll allow you to do that. And that's a great way to stay on top of things that you want to be updated on. There's a lot of AI communities out there that give you a lot of relevant information. And this next one, I know you've heard it before. I know Tila mentioned it when she did her AI lab. Experiment, do things, try things, because you're not going to break anything, honestly. Just try it. If it doesn't work, try something else. You've got to start using AI every day so that you can get comfortable with it. And there's a lot of white papers out there. Again, it can get overwhelming, if you will. And this is what I do. This is really the slide that is the whole crux of today's AI lab, is how do you time block to make sure that you're giving yourself enough time to look at everything. I do 30, and I honestly do this. I do 30 minutes every day where I sit down and I read my news blogs. I identify the topics that I want to research more and just create a list of things. I try to focus on a particular project that I'm trying to do. One of the things I'm working on right now is creating an AI agent. So that's taking some time to set up and work on. Definitely split your time in theory versus practical, because theory, you're just reading about it. When you get your hands dirty, that's when you really get to learn. I typically do a 2 to 3 hour deep dive, not every weekend, but probably every other weekend, where I want to really get into a particular topic and really do more with it. And then I know a couple of you here where I reach out to you and I ask you, hey, I'm doing this. What do you think about that? So we do regular check-ins. I get your feedback. You get my feedback, because that helps keep us in line of what we're trying to do. The one that I put in red, if it's not on your calendar, you're going to ignore it. So if you really want to stay on top of AI, make sure you put that 30-minute that we talked about here. Make sure that you have that on your calendar so that you know you've blocked this time to work on this. Subscribe, and I do this. I've got rules in my email that file my newsletters into a specific folder so it doesn't bog down my email. And when I'm doing this 30-minute daily, kind of like diving in, I go to that folder and I start looking at my different newsletters, what articles. The rundown is one of the best ones is out there, I think. It's very succinct. It's like a one-pager, gives you the 5 or 6 new things that have come out. It gives you information about why something is important, why it matters, how you can use it. And if you're not familiar with the Pomodoro technique, it's basically doing a timer, setting a clock. If you have an Alexa or a Siri or something in your home, just tell it to do a 30-minute timer so that you continue focusing on making sure you're not going down those rabbit holes. And I keep a learning journal. I like to write. I know a lot of people use digital, but personally, if I write it, I'll remember it. So I like to write the things that I learn, the things that resonate with me, the things that I want to follow up on. I use color coding. I use ABC in my notes so that I know A is something that's really critical and I want to follow up on it. B is something that I'm going to probably follow up if I have time. C is just a nice to have. And again, I said I'm actually working on AI agents right now. I'm trying to create an AI agent, and this is the one that I'm working on, doing market research. And so trying to set that up, trying to do the integrations that are necessary. It's not something that you're going to turn around in a day or two, obviously. And so you just want to make sure that you're setting yourself up with the right time to work on these things. A lot of you have asked about social media posting and scheduling. That's something that an AI agent can help you with as well, and help you set up calendars and scheduling so that you don't have to keep worrying about it every single day. And the other use case, and I know I've talked about this in the past, is using scheduled tasks, which are triggered on specific timing or when an event happens. They're not really that 100% accurate yet. I think there's a lot more work to be done on scheduled tasks right now, but it's a good start. You can get your hands dirty with this as you go along, and as you build your knowledge, especially with this area. Some of the resources, if you're not following Ali, I would definitely follow Ali. She is she sends great posts, and her newsletter is very insightful. She also has a free course, the AI Fast Track. It's like a 5-day on your own. It's a great way to learn and get up to speed, especially she leverages not ChatGPT, but Claude. So her course is more on the Claude side of things. I showed you the best of AI. Convergence is an AI agent marketplace. So is Agent.ai. So if you're looking for specific agents of how can I do this, can I do that, those are great places to start to look at what they're doing. Prompt engineering, I don't really want to get into the details of zero shot and few shot and all of that, but prompt engineering is really how you get a GPT to respond accurately to you. These are all the newsletters that I subscribe to. Ali's is actually on her website, so you'd have to scroll all the way to the bottom to sign. It's not at the top. All the other ones, I would say these are great resources to have. To try and read this, and keep up with it all the time is hard. That's why what I suggested is time block, create rules in your email so that it files all those things to you. You can actually use AI to summarize what those newsletters have in them. So that's a way where you can leverage the AI to tell you about AI, if you will. If you like podcasts, the AI Daily Brief is a great podcast. I just subscribed to the AI Snake Oil, which kind of like debunks all the hype around AI. It's kind of an interesting newsletter. There's a lot of great YouTube channels that you could follow. Again, making sure that you're sticking to the timeline that you've given yourself, making sure that you're actually setting the time that you're going to spend on this, and then stopping and not continuing and spending 3 hours and then realizing that the day has gone is really important. Coursera has a great set of courses. They're all short. You can just do them really quickly and get through them. And I know I ran through this very, very fast, but I know that Molly wanted to really open this up for conversation, have me present the kind of like the structure, and then to do this as a conversation as opposed to me just speaking for the next half hour.
Thanks, Suha. Yeah, I just feel like we all have questions. There are a bunch of experts on this call, and we just want to talk about use cases in production right now, and what are people working on? Is it all personal, or have you started? I know people have started already building inside their companies, so.
Absolutely. Well, I mean, I think maybe you can start, because I know you've built an agent yourself, Molly. So tell us a little bit about that. I know it was a while back, but tell us a little bit about that.
I was just playing with the custom GPT thing, and I am a plant lady. I'm really into plants. And so I built this thing called the Plant Witch, and I just made it, I gave it all the plant expertise and knowledge and stuff, but then I gave it a personality of a witch, and I say, please always be complimentary to any inquiries you get, and give people tips on how to revive their plants. So I just upload a photo of a dying plant that I have. I have plenty. And then the Plant Witch tells me, oh, Molly, you have such exquisite taste in ferns, blah, blah, blah. It's like, I need the encouragement. And then it'll tell me.
Because you said you provided it with the knowledge base. So how did you train? How did you tell your agent, here's where my data is? Here's where you learn.
I asked ChatGPT for a list of reliable information sources for plant care and all that. And then I told the custom, these are your source.
Yeah, this is where you're learning from.
Yeah, and I have no real idea if it's totally accurate or not, because I don't know enough to be able to fact check it. But that was what you're talking about, really, is it was just playing with something completely unrelated to what we do.
And that's something fun. It's something you enjoy. I mean, and I know you love plants, and so that's definitely
there goes 3 hours. You know what I'm saying? That's the danger of what you're talking about.
Yeah. Has anybody else built any custom GPTs, any agents, anything like that? Is that something you would consider doing now that you've heard how easy it is? I mean, because I remember I had written the post on AI agents, and I think like that afternoon you responded and you said, I built my first agent. I built my first custom GPT. And it literally is, it's easy, but you can't go down a rabbit hole. So, what I would suggest, again, time blocking, I say that all the time, and I know I'm guilty of it, But if you don't time block, you can lose yourself. And the next thing is, because this stuff is so, I mean, to me anyway, maybe it's not for everybody, but for me, it's so enthralling. I sit there and I read, and then I click on the next link and I read that next one and the next one, and I try this and I try that. And the next thing I know, it's like 4 hours have passed and my husband's coming up to tell me it's 11 p.m. at night and it's time for bed. I was like, wait, what? So
I'm in that same camp, Suha. People, when they ask me about AI, sometimes I think they regret that they asked. Like, make her stop.
So if you guys can do something like that, what would your agent be? What would your custom GPT be for?
I built another one that's totally unrelated.
What did you build?
I have the small town that I live in here. I wanted to learn more about like places to go, and I know there's some reliable websites. So I just built one that only looks at those, reviews and doesn't look at the trash on Facebook and, and seriously, that was 30 minutes. It's really easy.
It is. And I mean, I think you have to start thinking of how do I want to say this? Let's say you wanted to find out what to do this weekend where you are. And you can go on this website and that website and read what somebody said and the blog about this. And that's going to take you an hour to 2 hours to decide what is a viable solution for me to do. And you don't want to spend that 2 hours doing that work. So if you have this little agent that says, hey, here's the links of where I want you to just look at this, don't look at the entire internet. And I want to know what's happening this weekend. You could tell it age groups, like if you have kids and you're trying to figure out something to do with them. Hey, I want something fun for age 5 to 7 within 30 minutes drive. And it'll give you a list and you're done. It takes you 30 minutes to set it up. So you need to do a little research to find out what are the viable resources that you want that custom GPT to use, because obviously you don't want it to search the entire internet. And then you're done. And then you could just run it anytime you want to, and it will give you that information.
I mean, in the work setting, I think like agency guidelines, right? I'm sure those exist all over in offices everywhere already.
Yeah, I mean, the example that Tila gave us with comparing the CD and the LE, I mean, if we want to look at it from a work perspective, I actually built that. I went back and I redesigned that because I was like, this is interesting. This is work. This is related to work. But I have to be careful with the data that you're providing, because obviously this is customer data. So you got to be able to redact some of that information. So you're going to have to do some upfront work to get to where you want to go when you're using customer data in that aspect. Again, using an open versus a closed model and solution to make sure that you're not creating a data privacy issue for your organization, that you're doing the right thing. So when you're thinking along those lines of something for the company, you always want to take the security and data privacy into consideration to make sure that you're not putting the company at jeopardy, out of compliance. But there's a lot of things that you could do that could make things so much easier and faster for you. Yeah, Brooke.
Just a question. I'm curious as to what you found in doing this. So I don't generally create custom GPTs, but I've become very good at prompting. So I'm curious about the variant. So let's just use the restaurant, or the things to do example.
Yep.
That if catering a prompt that would identify the area and the age of the kid, all those things that you identified, but crafting that as a prompt as compared to the custom GPT, and designating, for example, saying, consider these websites when you give me the information. What have you found that do you get even better responses if you do a custom GPT, or is it not that much different?
It's not that it's not much different. And now with memory, it makes it a lot easier to just do it with the prompting. In the past, you didn't have the memory. And so you either had to create it as a project when projects came out, or you'd have to save that prompt and reuse it. So I actually have a file of prompts from the past that I actually keep, and they're labeled, so that I know exactly what each prompt does. When you do it as a custom GPT, it's set. It's kind of like a little program. It's like an executable. You just run it and you give it the information that you want, and it does it. So you don't have to remember the prompting part. With memory now available, that makes it a little less cumbersome, is the word I'm looking for. Does it give you better results? I don't think so, because I think it's using the same sources, because you've specified the sources. If you don't specify the sources, then it's going to go out and do its own thing.
Agreed.
And remember, you will not get the same answer, even if you give it the same prompt 2 times in a row. You're not going to get the same answer, because this is AI and it's going and pulling things. So, I mean, if you've ever run a prompt, try to run it again. Just right after it gives you the answer, run it, copy it, and run it again. And it will give you, it's going to be same answers, but worded differently, looks differently. Sometimes it'll put it in a table. Sometimes it'll just be bullet points. It may include more things. It may include less things. It just depends, because it is AI and it's using that learning that it has. It never gives you the same answer twice. That's what I found.
I think that's the context when people talk about Gen AI. That's the context for what Gen AI is as compared to, for example, some traditional forms of artificial intelligence, which we've all used for decades.
Yes.
So that's, and if we take that context and put it in the work arena, that's why there's such concern around using, I'll call them standard models, without the internal guardrails to be able to pull information from specific sources. But that's where you start to get the concerns about why wouldn't you use ChatGPT, for example, just open it as allowable within an internal enterprise.
Yeah, and that's exactly why, because you are going to get different answers, and if it's an open model, you're not able to put those guardrails that you want to put in. And this is why, to date, there's still a lot of companies who do not allow their employees to use AI at work. It's very interesting to me that they can go home and use AI, but at work they cannot. And the efficiency that they may gain by being able to play and do things is being lost, because they're not able to, because their companies are either out of fear, out of compliance, out of security, out of data privacy, the whole data governance part of it. They're afraid, and so they don't allow them. And rather than actually putting in the right framework to allow their employees to leverage it within those guardrails that you're talking about, Brooke, they just put it aside and say, no, we're not going to do it.
And I mean, you guys are going to love this stat. So there's a recent report out that says 70% of knowledge workers are bringing their own AI to work.
Yep.
And my immediate reaction when I saw that was, okay, wow, that's shocking. Then I thought, well, wait a minute. No, if my people wouldn't do that, right? They know the rules. Not my children wouldn't do that.
But they do.
Yeah.
I mean, if you've got this and it's your personal one, and it's not a company provided that's locked in, you've got AI right there. You can get on ChatGPT, you can get on everything right there.
So, and of that, 65% of those people said that they wouldn't tell their boss that they were using it because they felt that it would make them be considered irrelevant or less valuable. And another and of that, 60% of those indicated that they didn't feel as if their organization had given them enough training. So, I mean, that just gives you, it like just gives you the context of how prolific this is, right?
It is absolutely. And I think, if we change the conversation and we say, you know what, rather than thinking or having this, the thought process of if you're using AI, then you're irrelevant, we need to change that conversation to say, when you use AI, you become more relevant because you're actually able to do more in less time and be more, not just efficient, but more knowledgeable. You have more knowledge because you have AI at your fingertips. And changing that conversation, changing that mindset of leadership is going to take some time. It's not just change management, it's actually changing the fear and making sure that they recognize that it's actually making their employees more relevant to use AI in their jobs.
I remember working at a technology company when social media first came out, and they were like, "Oh, that's a fad. Everybody stay off of it." And they try to impose these rules with no way to enforce anything or whatever. And it was, the dumpster fire. I feel like it's probably going to happen the same way.
Do you guys want to hear a fantastic social media story?
Yes.
So I ran fraud. It was under my vertical, and there was a family, a fraudster family, and they had come through the organization. We had caught them. We hadn't closed the loans, but as we were, digging in and looking at stuff, we noticed a few things on social media, specifically around a daughter sitting in front of mom's Bentley, because you buy a Bentley when you commit fraud consistently and dramatically across the industry. Anyway, so found the daughter and had been, and because we were tying all these threads together, we were talking to the FBI, and the FBI had been unable to find this young woman. There was auto fraud, there was credit card fraud, there was millions of dollars of fraud. I mean, you're buying a Bentley. So they had been unable to find this young woman. So, because we were going through social media and we were finding this, we saw her standing, here's a picture, here's it's dated, there's the Bentley, there she is, gave them a call, they picked her up. The FBI was locked out of using social media. They couldn't even use it in their investigations. So little fraud team, a mortgage company, found one of their most wanted through social media for something they weren't allowed to do. So I think it's, Molly, to that point, there's a curve, right? There's an adoption curve. Mm-hmm. There's fear. And then all of a sudden you see use cases, and then you see multiple use cases, and you get a little bit of acceptance, and then you get complete adoption. If you think about thumbprints on an Apple or Face ID, biometrics, no. Now everybody uses Clear at the airport, right? It's like you've got it all. It's all, in the interweb. The dark web has all my stuff. We're doing it. And this is on that curve too. So I think it's only a matter of time. So I love early adopters. I love innovative people. Brooke and I talk all the time. She gets me so excited about all the stuff that she's doing. I'm so glad to meet you, Suha, see all the things that you're doing. But I think these conversations are important because the more we talk about it, the more we socialize it, the better off we all are as we adopt it en masse.
And I think, sorry.
No, go ahead.
No, what I was going to say, I think the wins come from those small incremental, successful use cases that create credibility. And that's what builds the adoption. That's what builds the acceptance. And then you're willing to try the next use case, and then the next use case, and a bigger use case, and a bigger, a project that involves it, until you get to that kind of like the flywheel where it's just going.
Yeah.
That,
That's
you
how
know,
you keep setting that bar and then raising it.
I think that one of the interesting observations, and there's a number of articles written on it now, is that just as you've just described it, you have to start somewhere, right? And start small, and that even if you're fearful at the beginning, the more frequently that you do it, like we don't even remember all the hassle that came along with TRID because it's so commonplace in what we do now, yet at the time it was horrific, right? So that's the example that always comes to mind. As it relates to AI, a number of things that I've been working on recently are about utilizing it in small increments to begin with, but instead of or being cautious of taking your existing process and building an AI to do what you already do. But it's not to say that you shouldn't consider that, but a better longer term consideration is that you go and understand how the AI works and what it is it can do for you, and then map that to your existing process, so that the intention isn't to have AI replicate your existing, but the intention of AI is to be used in the manner in which it was built and designed to take full advantage of it, and then map it back to your existing process and be able to say, for example, oh, I don't need to do this anymore because there's a different way to facilitate it through the incorporation of the advancing tools. And anyone who doesn't already have all their processes mapped, their heads kind of explode and go, oh my gosh, do you have any idea how long that will take? Well, the good news is there's an AI for that. What would have taken days or weeks in some cases can now literally be done in literally light speed by comparison. But I offer that as just kind of a backdrop as you continue to test these tools, whether they be personally or professionally, and start to think about them in terms of, wait a minute, how does this actually work? And how might it facilitate removing a step in my existing process, or putting that step in a different place, which ultimately creates a greater efficiency as well.
Yeah, and the AI is really great at identifying where you've got duplicated effort, where you're doing the same thing over, at different parts, different touches in that process, and identifying which ones can be eliminated to create that efficiency, as you're saying, Brooke. And what you've said, where you take the AI and you map it back into the process, as opposed to building the AI to replace the process that you're doing, right. That's brilliant.
Yeah, I mean, that is the work that I've been focused on now, because truly I think that this is a transformation opportunity where we've talked about transformation in the industry for, I don't know, decades. we haven't done so well with it, but this is a little different, right? And it's a little different if we're willing to dig a little deeper and not just go along the way we've always done it. But to take what we've learned and apply it in new ways, and let the machine work for us, so to speak, where we're not accustomed to thinking that way, right? We're accustomed to thinking, I put it into Excel, it gives me an answer, and I move on, kind of thing. Like that's it. We're not used to thinking of it in essence. I say a different lens with which we come to the table.
Yeah, I was just going to add, and going back to, like you said, when people say, oh, it'll make me irrelevant or whatever, but this has been some years ago. I was on the technology side, and we were automating things for capital markets, right? And to your point, Brooke, they were kind of behind the scenes, and it was all spreadsheet driven. And it's like, why are you spending your time But that was one of the biggest pushbacks, was they were afraid it was going to make them, again, kind of irrelevant, instead of looking at it that, no, this is stuff that you shouldn't be wasting your time on. You can just like I said, let the automation do this part for you, and then you can be focused on the other areas, again, where you don't have time. So I love that part. And then also, I just want to, like I said, I'm so excited to be part of this. And I didn't really, I mean, again, those of you, Molly and Suha, you know, I work for an AI company now, but I didn't realize that it was, I'm not going to say easy, but that to create my own agent. So, because I know we always talk about our agents, and then there's a model, and then there's other, you know, we also have other algorithms and stuff on top of it. But to start where I could create my own AI agent, I love that. So yeah, so thank you.
How many
of the
people are
women-
going to bed late tonight? I know I am. I'm ageing up after this.
One of the
I
ones that
know.
I created was menus, because
Hmm.
you're always struggling with what are you going to make for dinner.
That's a good point.
I mean, kind of like, you know, it's like, you know, my personal chef. Here's all, you know, I love Food Network. So I used their library. I said, look here, you know, and I typically just say, I'm looking for a meal that, you know, something that will take me 45 minutes. Here's what I have in my fridge, kind of thing. And it tells me, oh, you can make this. Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah. Again, your agent can be something fun. It doesn't have to be work. You know, it can be something fun that's useful for you. Sorry, Brooke, you started to say something.
No, I was just gonna say, like, that's the fun part, right? Like, it doesn't have to feel like it's one more thing that you have to do that's heavy.
Yeah.
It was like, wait a minute, that just made my life easier.
Exactly. Exactly.
I've been using it instead of a search engine for 30, 45 days or so now. And I feel like I mean, we have a relationship where it teases me, you know, sometimes like it makes
Y'all heard that,
smart-ass
right? Molly
remarks
has a
to me. It's a smart ass to me sometimes. And I'm like, wait a second. I mean, it seems sarcastic.
I love it.
I'm gonna paste this prompt. I saw this, I think, on Instagram, or I follow a bunch of AI, non-financial service related, but just AI people. And I saw a prompt on there. It said, now that you can remember everything I've ever typed here, point out my top 5 blind spots. And
That's
oh my
cool.
God. Yeah, well, until it tells you exactly what's wrong with you.
This is very much a monster of your own creating, which is the part about this.
Oh, I'm going to copy this prompt.
Yeah, but I use it a lot for building this community. You know, I say, yesterday I had a phone call with a brand new member, and I had the recording, and I said, you know, I think that what she's most interested in is this, this, and this. These are her priorities. Here's the transcript. Am I missing anything? You know, and it'll give me some ways to, there are some ideas, maybe, you know, it'll give me like 4 ideas, and 2 of them are good, you know. So it's just like having an assistant that, you know, sometimes is smarter than you, but not all the time.
Yeah, I mean, and that's kind of like what I've heard people refer to, especially those, you know, the Gen AI tools like ChatGPT and Claude and stuff. Use them as a personal assistant. Absolutely, that's what they're there for. And as you become more familiar with them, you can then go to that next level, and then the next level.
We
Also, if
use
you're
it.
not looking for, oh, go ahead, Brooke.
No, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
If you're not looking for perfection, So
Yeah.
I like went out on my own. I'm creating my systems right now, probably a little late, about a year and a half into this, but I'm writing all these policy and procedure docs. So I use Perplexity a lot,
Mhm.
and I ask Perplexity, like, here are the things that I need contained in it. Here it is. Gives me an outline. It gives me a place to start. Sometimes the hardest thing is just starting.
Yep.
So giving me that place to start, so then I can, it ends up looking completely different, but that's not what matters. It's that it leapfrogs me on my journey to getting that done.
Yep.
And it makes it a lot easier to get started when so much of the work, just outlining, is done for you.
We used it recently. Within the last few weeks, my husband needed to get a new vehicle unexpectedly, and actually, I use Perplexity a lot as well. It's known for its research capabilities.
Mhm.
So I put in. We knew that range of years that he was looking for. We knew our price range that we wanted to pay. We knew the mileage that we didn't want it to exceed. And we did it within a 50-mile radius of a zip code. And it did pretty good. Like it definitely, he was trying to go through, like he was sitting on using his iPad, and I was sitting on my phone, using the AI tools. And it was interesting because I'm sending him, like I would get one and I'd send it over to him. He's like, well, where'd you find that? So it did pull from slightly different sources. But what I found is that when it gave me the research at one particular vehicle, it sounded like that. Oh my gosh, that sounds like just what we're looking for. It didn't exist, which really annoyed me.
That's the hallucination part
Yeah.
there.
Yeah, I clicked on it, and there was, I'm like, it's not, in essence, it said it was at this particular dealer, and it just wasn't. So, but I always make the joke around hallucinations. It's like, it's the definition of hallucination is when it creates information that looks and sounds accurate. And I always laugh, and I'm like, okay, well, don't we know humans that behave that way? Like, I mean, let's just set our expectations, right? I mean, come on.
Absolutely. But I think, that does kind of tie into a point, and I know that you guys all probably know this. So whenever you do some research, whenever in my prompts, I actually tell it to cite specific, to include referrals and sightings and give me the links. And, when it tells me, oh, Harvard Business Review, in a study by Harvard Business Review XYZ, and I say, well, where's the link for that? Oh, I'm sorry, I actually made this up, kind of thing. And it will admit it. It will say, oh, I'm sorry, this is not, I just created something that sounded like what you wanted, kind of thing. So you always have to be very careful when you're citing things from a research to make sure that it actually does exist if it's referring to something.
Yeah, that's a great tip.
That sounds like somebody that used to work for us all. They sounded like they knew what they were talking about.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, they make it. It sounds really great, and it just like, oh wow, well, where's the link for that? I want to read that article. So just be careful.
Yeah, and I think that is part of the concern even the organizations have in utilizing the tools, because even I think to me that it's this unique prospect of it's human behavior that's going to affect your result, right? That in essence, you might be afraid to use it in the first place, but then very readily we begin to accept what it says. And depending on what you're asking it, that acceptance of that response can have consequences. So that's why organizations are ideally extraordinarily careful around how they would cater its use for given circumstances, right? I mean, if we're looking up a guideline, it's one thing with the expectation that you click on the link to verify it's actually there. If a loan officer is using the information to describe what loan program might be available, and in fact it doesn't exist, different issue.
Yeah, or I mean, and take it into healthcare, if you're just relying on AI to do diagnosis or whatever, and you don't have that human in the loop to actually verify.
I was actually on a call this morning, and they have just within the last week done it didn't actually have a person in a wheelchair able to walk, but there was a connection that allowed AI embedded into a human being, and they were paraplegic, that allowed them to use a robotic hand.
That's
so
cool.
I mean, I just said I couldn't even imagine, being in the place where the devastation of thinking that you are a paraplegic and then actually having hope and having it work, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you don't, and ideally they'll get to a point where there would be the capabilities of actually walking again. I mean, imagine that, right? I mean, what we're talking about is minimal and by comparison.
Yeah, the potential and the opportunity is immense, honestly.
I feel like there's like the next gen stuff. So I know I pronounce it wrong. I say agentic. I think it's agentic. AI. There's a few vendors I know that are leveraging it now. That's coming into our industry soon. That is, it's not creative as much as it researches and then it decisions. I don't know how deeply you ladies have looked at that, the ones that are far more forward thinking on this than I am. This is something that I'm just starting to dig into. I'm just going to throw it out there. Would love a topic about that, because like the generative, right? It's creative, but this is the stuff. The agentic that's going to really move the needle for us.
Yeah, and they're saying agentic AI is probably going to be in hands before the end of the year.
And I would say I think it's really cool to think about how you could string those tasks together to be able to have things done.
Kind of like a process, and it goes from one agent to another agent to another agent as it moves along.
Yeah. So I think that it's very engaging to think, oh my gosh, how many things might this be used for? And then the one of the sidebars to that is that the autonomy that they create and the potential risk or concern that autonomy, in essence, it's happening by itself. And that's what I mean in this case by the autonomy aspect of it. Does that represent a higher level of risk either that an organization is willing to take, or more importantly, does the organization recognize that there is the autonomy associated with it, and have they validated against their own risk profile as an organization?
One example that I have is there's a vendor that attaches to an LOS, and they attach to a CRM, and the loan officers can say, hey, pull all these folks that have a birthday and create an email for me. And I know Jill Johnson's losing her mind from a marketing perspective because we really like to control what we send to clients. So, this agentic system is making those decisions on what to say. And it could be different every time. And then also, rates came down 0.5%. Find the folks that are in the money. Okay, well, now I'll send an email to them. Great. What is it? The TCP, there's compliance and marketing things, all risk all through that. Like, how is that being managed? Yeah, it's going to be interesting.
It sounds like a high-paying potential job for Jill Johnson. Monitor that.
I mean, and I think that's what's really, it's when you take the human and the AI and you put them together to create a success. Because if you do the complete autonomy of the AI, you are getting into those compliance, out of compliance situations, or you're creating customer service issues. Let's say you pulled that, you said, give me the list of people, the rates went down and, they're in the money and now I can refinance them. And you sent that email out and 100 of them really wasn't, or it had the wrong, the wrong thing, and the email went out, and now you've created a huge customer service issue for your clients. So having that human in the loop, that's where the upskilling, reskilling of the workforce to actually complement and supervise the AI. That's where you get that success. That's where you build the opportunity and the success that comes from it. If you guys haven't, I know, Brooke, you've read the book, Co-Intelligence, the Ethan Mollick book.
Yeah.
If you guys haven't read that book, it talks about that AI human collaboration. It's a great book.
The other one that
at Wharton, is that right?
Yes.
Is it?
Yep.
Wharton.
Yep. Ethan Mollick. The other one that I really liked, Ethan Mollick's is a quick read. Like whereas
it's an easy read.
Yeah. That's the Coming Wave from Mustafa Suleiman. It's probably 3 times as long. But it's very well written. Not too technical.
I'm glad that those are good resources, because I think that's really the next frontier, is how do we bring the human and the AI together as we begin to go down this journey and this path. And I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity to create that successful journey. And there's going to be need for humans that are capable of doing that. And that's where we upskill and reskill.
Well, humans with the subject matter expertise that is present on this call, I feel like this is how we stay relevant and high earning.
Yeah.
This was really
Anybody
great.
have any more questions? I want to make sure, if you came tonight with a specific question, can we handle it before we go?
Anybody?
But I guess we can send you
I just have one
DMs on the
question.
Abuse channel.
Sorry, I'm like that kid when we were just about to hang up. And my name is Meg. I don't know why I'm logged into my work Gmail or something. So that's why my name isn't Embrace, but it is Meg. So I am such a newbie to AI. Like I've learned so much. I am so impressed with all of you guys. This is amazing. So this might be a very newbie question, but when it comes to creating my own agent, something I'd like to do for my marketing team is so I don't know if it's called a custom GPT or an agent, to just load in all of our marketing that we've already produced, so that if we want to create more copy and stuff like that, it draws on that. Do you know what tool might work best for that? Would it be the Zapier or a ChatGPT, or where do you think I should do that?
If you're providing your company marketing collateral, you definitely do not want to use an open model.
Okay.
I would suggest, because you don't want to have that available. It's not like somebody can look at it and say, I want to look at Embrace Marketing's marketing material, but it's going to be there to be drawn on from the learning, right? So you definitely want to do that in a more closed environment. That would be my recommendation. Brooke, I'm going to ask you what you think.
Oh, I would 100% agree. Now, there are ways that you can do an enterprise version of GPT and only give access to certain people. So, for example, if you got permission and work through with your CTO and we're able to set up the GPT internally and only gave access to certain individuals, and then put your guard, that would give you those guardrails that you would need. And you can cater your sources around that as well.
Okay.
That's really what I meant by a closed
Yeah.
tool versus an open tool, is actually
Okay.
getting an enterprise.
Is a Notebook LM, is that a closed tool? And by, okay. So by closed,
It's not a closed tool, but Notebook LM is Google, and they very clearly state that they don't use your information to train. Having said that, I still wouldn't use it in an enterprise version without the blessing of compliance in IT.
okay.
No, great question, Meg.
Okay.
So
I mean,
just
wild
make-
follow-up question. If it's my marketing that I want there anyway, out there, because it's marketing, is there any benefit? Because I have also been seeing, some rumbling on the marketing things I read right now are about the answer optimization as opposed to search engine optimization. So like having information about your company coming up in answers as opposed to just search. So if you put your marketing materials into one of these open AIs, could it come up in answers? Like, oh, Embrace Home Loans does that product? I don't know. Is that, I haven't called back the marketing agencies that are trying to sell me the thing yet.
I personally don't know the answer to that. I personally don't know the answer to that because I haven't really started to look at the answer optimization versus search engine optimization personally. So I can't answer that one. Sorry. I don't know if anybody else.
Well, I'm not 100% sure, but I believe the answer is that it doesn't, the challenge with doing it with the idea that it would be beneficial is that it's generative AI and you have no control over which parts and how it's pulling and whether or not it would give you an answer that in fact was actually accurate in relationship to what you would want people to know.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Yeah, because what if it pulled something and said, oh yeah, Embrace does this, when, because it looked at it
totally
and
mess it up,
hallucinated and
we would want to start with closed, and my security won't let me. Well, they're barely going to let me do this. So, but I just was curious.
But it's a great use case, and there are actually resources that you could use to actually give the like showcase the benefit and the reason why they should allow you to do this. There's actually resources out there that kind of walk you through how you submit that request to get it through your IT, your compliance, and all of that.
Okay, thank you.
Oh, that's a good. Will you share those? Because that's like writing your case for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I can
Um,
share those. I mean, I've come across a couple of those where they give you kind of like an outline, like Kristen was saying, gives you an outline of the things that you can actually discuss with your leadership team to walk them through the advantages and why they should approve this.
I have one more question too. It could have been you. Maybe it was Kristen was talking about Agentic and a vendor coming and having a session on that. Will you follow up with me after and say, this would be the expert, or Brooke, she's gonna lead our next one.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah. In July, I think.
Yeah. Okay. I hope to have accomplished a whole bunch more by then. But
by then everyone should showcase their agents that they've created, their custom GPTs that they've worked on, the fun ones. We don't want work related, we want fun ones.
I'm gonna share a link to the plant witch. It's totally ridiculous. But it was just what I was really using it for is to revive sad looking plants, but also I just wanted to play around with crafting the personality of the answer, you know, like what kind of personality would and that was a lot of fun. And there's lots of ways that we could use that in, I mean, I'm sure people are already doing that in help desk and things like that.
Yeah.
All
Well, it's
right.
great to see everyone. Thank you, Suha. Great job. Nice to see
Thanks,
everyone.
everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Everyone,
We'll see you
I learned so
soon.
much.
Guys.
Me too.